The News Channel 5 Network. This is OpenLine.
Good evening and welcome to OpenLine. I'm Chris Davis. This is going to be a fascinating night here on OpenLine. Our topic tonight is HB 1944. It's a controversial bill going through the Tennessee State Legislature that essentially equates to allowing school boards to ban quote-unquote obscene books, and there could be a prosecution element to that as well with this. So we wanted to talk to people tonight that this could directly impact, and each of our guests tonight that impacts them in a unique way. Let's introduce you. We have three tonight. Andrew Maraniss is our first one up. He is a New York Times bestselling author of Singled Out and various others as well. We also have Kimberly Bradley. She is also a New York Times bestselling author of The War That Saved Me, or Saved My Life, I should say, along with other titles as well. And then we also have Lindsey Kimery. She is the past president of the Tennessee Association of School Librarians. So let's start with Lindsey, because I think you could probably give us a little bit more of an overview of what this bill specifically does.
Thank you, Chris. It's an honor to be here. I appreciate it very much. So the best that I understand, HB 1944 addresses concerns about obscene or pornographic materials in school libraries and seeks to create a skeletal process for a parent, for example, to place a concern and have a book reviewed. If the book is deemed to be obscene or pornographic, the educator, the librarian who may have had that book in the library could face a misdemeanor on the first offense and a felony on the second offense. And the bill was heard yesterday in the House Criminal Justice Committee, and it passed, but the bill was also amended yesterday. And so there's a little bit of confusion right now about the interpretation of the bill, because what it seemed yesterday is that materials would already have to be deemed obscene according to the Miller test, which is a Supreme Court test that determines obscenity. And so school libraries have no access to purchase anything like that. Like, it would not be available at Parnassus. It would not be available at Barnes & Noble or at Walmart or Target or online. Like, our vendors are their vendors as well. And so it is something that I don't even know where we would get it, quite frankly. And so the process that they are speaking of already exists. Every school district already has a reconsideration process. So if a parent, it's usually a current parent, they have to have a child in the school currently, or a staff member or student has a concern about a book, there's a process already in place for them to express that concern. And so the Tennessee Association of School Librarians has been working to just try to talk with our legislators and explain this process, show them documentation where it can be found in every school district, walk them through how it works. So we feel that this bill is just redundant, because there's a way right now to have those concerns from parents, the student, staff member addressed.
Lindsey, one more question for you before we go to our larger panel here. But obviously, this comes at a very interesting time for education, where there are already reported teacher and librarian shortages across the nation. Would a bill like this only make a situation like that worse in Tennessee, in your view?
I do feel that would be part of the chilling effect of this bill, even whether it's passed or not, because as a librarian, even as an educator, you have a love for working with students. You have a love for seeing them find a book and connect with that book and, become a lifelong reader. So there's so much magic in that and working with students. And, something like this really just there's a cause for concern because from what we've seen in testimony in subcommittee and testimony yesterday in committee, there's a very wide interpretation of what is obscene. And so librarians are going to be kind of the punching bag for that. Parents, students, come from a variety of different backgrounds. They have different values. Our schools are more diverse than ever before. And obviously, school libraries are trying to have materials for all of our students. And so it is very subjective. And so we can't really, it's like, we don't know what to expect,
Sure, absolutely. Andrew, I want to bring you in on this because I understand you've been a part of some of these committee meetings that have been held on Capitol Hill. What is your first kind of thoughts on this so far?
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Yeah, I've been there along with Kimberly and Lindsey, and it's really, to me, just maddening as a parent, as an author, as a Tennessean. As Lindsey said, the bill is redundant. It's also unnecessary. There are not obscene books in school libraries. It's hard to take the folks who are pushing for this bill or where they're advocating for it at face value, at their word that this is really about language, in particular books. I think it's more about an attack on teachers and librarians and public schools. Chris, you mentioned sort of just the larger context that we're seeing around the country right now, and you see that as part of a playbook by certain people on the right who would look to change the way public schools have operated in this country for years. And so I think that it's no coincidence that efforts like this are coming along at a time when there's been a great increase in books by and about diverse characters, and by diverse authors, whether you're talking about LGBTQ or African American or any other group in this country. You're seeing a pushback against that, which is really disgusting in my mind. People taking the supposed moral high ground, who, as I'm sitting there yesterday, news is coming across Twitter about them being part of some of the bribery scandals in the legislature. Today, someone named to the state education board who's an online ammunition salesman that sold bullets to an underage person who had 2 mass shootings. People who have been on record with quite racist statements in the past, and they're the ones that supposedly are taking this moral high ground against pornography in libraries. It's completely false, and it's really disappointing.
Kimberly, kind of the same question to you. Your thoughts as you've paid attention to some of the followings in committee, and your perspective as an author, in this whole debate as we move forward.
Yeah, I think that I echo what both Lindsey and Andrew said. I mean, unequivocally, we say that there is no place for porn in school libraries, but we're also saying that the books that they are protesting against are not, in fact, pornographic. When we say school libraries, we're talking preschool through grade 12. We're talking up to 18 and 19-year-olds. And they do have a lot of varied needs, and they come from a lot of different backgrounds. And it really, even though there is a federal definition of pornography, it seems that any sort of mention of sex, and particularly LGBTQIA, is being pegged under this as inappropriate. And the truth is that, we have gay and transgender students in the public school system, and we have students who have gay and transgender parents, and they deserve to see themselves seen in literature as much as any other child. The same thing in terms of racial diversity. We are not only writing for white children in Tennessee, and it's not only the white parents who get to decide whether something is too diverse. We're seeing books that are being challenged that are along the lines of the story of Ruby Bridges, a picture book biography of Ruby Bridges, who was the child who helped desegregate schools. That's not, that's not pornography. That is trying to give one person's version of history. But we don't only have that one person in the public schools. We have all the people. And, our country was founded under the idea that of religious freedom and of freedom of thought. We're supposed to be for all the kids.
Absolutely. So all three of you have been in the committee room. All three of you have been following this closely. Lindsey, perhaps this question is best for you. What is your understanding from committee members, from legislators that are in favor of this? What is their reasoning for this? Has there been anything in particular that, has ushered this on, or is this kind of part of a national movement within a political party?
Yes, I do think it's a combination of it's a national movement. In subcommittee last week, Representative Sapicki held up a piece of paper at the end of the committee and said, there's 71 titles that we found. And I have a picture of that document, and at the top of it, it's from a school district in Florida, SDIRC. And I believe that's the Indian River District, and that is very much connected with Moms of Liberty. So there's that. We can't deny that it's an election year. And we unfortunately have seen in other states as well, when you scare parents, it gets attention. Right. So I'm afraid that that's a little bit part of it as well. Also, based on the testimony that I've heard, I've gathered there's a lot of these works that are being discussed or brought up as obscene or pornographic. They're taking a passage or two, a sentence or two from a book, and we're not taking the book as a whole. Context matters. And if I've heard about me, Earl and the Dying Girl once, I've heard it a million times over the past 3 weeks. I had never read the book. I was familiar with it, but I used to be a middle school librarian. I didn't have it in my school. It's a book for high schoolers. So a couple weekends ago, I did my homework. I read the book. And then there's an award-winning movie made from the book. So I watched the movie too for kicks. And so now I feel like I can speak, to the book. I haven't just read the one page or two that they love to read out at the committee meetings, and talk about as obscene. So I'm afraid, like our legislators, they're hearing that. And, they're so busy and they don't necessarily have time to read the whole book and really understand the point of the book. So.
Yeah, Chris, I would agree with that. There was a lot of cherry picking of a particular line here or there from a book, which of course does not meet the Miller test. It's all about context, when determining whether something is actually pornographic, obscene. And so many speakers in those meetings that are opposed to this bill pointed out that there are lines in the Bible itself which could be interpreted as obscene and pornographic. And of course, you would not ban the Bible and say that kids can't read it. So, again, it just points to the absurdity of their claims.
Absolutely. We have just jumped into this, which is exactly how I hoped this conversation would go. We have to fit in a quick break really quick. Reminder that you can call in with your questions. The number's there on your screen. We'll be back after this.